any of you were listening when Mark gave his presentation, he actually gave you this answer. Does anybody that does not live in Houston know how many II teams call ERG home? 6 is technically right. They have 2 open teams, 2 girls teams, and, well, Melanie, you were kind of right with the middle school too. Texas A&M also plays out of ERG quite a bit. They come out here to play a lot of their games, come out here to play tournaments. They also have one of the largest middle school tournaments that we have. They typically have between 4 to 5 teams. Our max we actually had in New York this past weekend with 6. And that was, 6 teams of middle schoolers, crazy fun. Allie Davidge was there, and she was texting me saying, this is the best thing I've ever done. I don't want to do anything else anymore, because they're little kids just having a great time. It is also in the arena. Okay, so what do you think of when you hear II? Just yell it out. Thank you. What else do you think of? Anybody? Arena. Tournaments. Fun. There we go. Okay, so these are some things we typically hear. Kids, ponies, arena. So anyway, there's a lot of different words that people associate with II. Most people, when they hear II, they just think tournaments. And it's really a lot more than just tournaments now, and that's what I'm really here to tell you. People also think that II is some crazy way that you play polo. We actually had a comment that is some convoluted way to play polo, which really mystifies us because it's not. It's polo. We play by the same rules as everyone else with a couple little differences. Okay, so II isn't just tournaments. It is youth teams, it's college teams. They play, oh man. It is year-round play through their academic year. So we now have what we call the regular season. It starts September 1st. Every team that wants to play in the II tournaments in the spring has to play at least 2 games between September 1st and about a month before the tournaments start. So we can seed the tournaments just like you would see in the NCAA tournaments for basketball, how they look at teams' records and set them up against each other to eventually get to that national championship. That's what we are trying to make II polo look like. Just like Duncan talks about making polo look more like a sport, we're doing the same thing on the II end. We now recognize teams for that regular season as well. So we give a regular season championship to every division in every region. II runs on 4 regions instead of the circuits, just because there are so many circuits in the US and we don't have quite as many II teams as there are circuits. Are we good to go now? Okay. So we run on a northeast, southeast, central, which really is basically the middle of the country, and then the west, which is mostly the Northwest, California, and Hawaii. So in each of those regions, we give out a regional championship for a team that plays at least 4 games against 3 different opponents. Whoever has the best record out of that also gets a certificate, letter of recognition after the year is over. And it's not always the typical team that ends up winning out the region. Sometimes it's one of the younger teams, one of the newer teams. For example, last year in the Northeast, it wasn't Cornell who won the regional for the girls. It was Alfred State University, because they had played so many other teams. They actually qualified for that award, got recognition sent to their president of their university, and got recognition back from that president, which was really great. So we're really trying to make it more than just tournaments. We're trying to make it more like a sport. So it is league play and tournament series. With the full academic year of involvement, it requires a lot of participation and commitment from parents and students. They have to commit to more than just a single tournament or a single month of play. They really have to play through the season, through the tournament season, to make it all work. And it's also an academic requirement too. These kids have to go to their school and they have to get signed off on, and it's different for every school, but the school has to say that they are eligible to play sports. academically. So if you aren't meeting your school's requirements, you're not playing for us either. Okay, so what would you need to get started? At the very basics, you need kids, you need some ponies. This was our Snapchat NIC this year, which was very exciting. When we announced that at our banquet, the college kids' little heads just exploded. They were just so pumped about it, our Snapchat filter. And you also need an arena. That's the very basics. We all know it takes more than that to have a polo team to run a polo program, but that's the very basics for you. For the interscholastics, these are their very basic requirements for what they need to do II polo. It is also, I mean, it's a little more than just this. Like we say, they have to be from grades 7 to 12. They need to be tournament ready. They need to be able to go in and play by the arena rules and know what our differences are in II. They also need to be able to go in and play unfamiliar horses, because on II we play in a split string system, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. And they also need to have that high level of commitment, because a lot of these kids can't drive yet. So their parents are shuttling them back and forth from practice. When I was at Garrison Forest, we had a student that drove at least an hour for every practice because he would come down from Pennsylvania. Until he was in 11th grade, his parents were hauling him down there once or twice a week. So it took a lot of commitment from his family to be able to do that. If you live in a spot and there's no club within 100 miles, we will help you find the closest club. We have had situations before where, a club that has had a team before, they have one kid graduate, they have 2 kids left. We'll try and find, if those 2 kids want to keep playing, we'll try and find them the next closest club for them to play for. So there are some exceptions there.
We just have to contact you.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, you just email me or Allie or Amy, and we kind of take it from there. It has to go through a committee situation. But we want everybody to keep playing polo, so usually it's not too much of an issue. With the interscholastic kids, with adding them to your clubs, a lot of people are like, oh, kids, they're going to come out, they're going to take some lessons. How can they actually help my club? Kids are the best thing ever because they are almost free help. When I was at Maryland Polo, and I'm sure Liv and Nate are still doing it now, they make great flaggers. They will go out and do the scoreboard. They will time for you. I've seen little nuggets this big out tacking. I know Cindy Halley has a couple of them that I don't even know how they get the saddles on because they're so tiny, but they do and they love it. Even they bring their parents, they bring their friends, they tell their brothers and sisters. It's like an explosion. They just tell everyone, I played polo today, I play polo. It travels like fire with the little kids. When they bring their parents, you may not get a parent that always knows how to ride. Maybe they don't end up playing polo, but the parents can be very helpful. They can, maybe you have a photographer that'll give you free photos. Maybe someone's great at marketing, they can help you out there. Someone that'll run your website for free or in exchange for, part of a kid's membership. A lot of times when they come out with their kids, they stay and watch polo. So maybe they're paying a fee to get into the game as well. Maybe they like it so much there, they end up buying one of your parking spots. You never know. You just have to ask, see what those people can help you out with as well. I know I've seen a lot of people that have a lot of great success getting parents to really dive in and help out with their clubs, and that can be a great asset to you. Horses for II. Thank you for the appreciative awe. Horses for II, we want them to be safe, obviously. That's the biggest thing for us. We want the horses to be safe for the kids. They need to be able to play at an appropriate level. Maybe your 16-goal horse isn't the greatest fit for the little kids to play. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just the wonder horse that can do everything. With II, they are, still that little circle. With II, they are subject to our equine welfare guidelines. And with II, we also, for every tournament, every horse has to have a current Coggins with the spring tournaments. They also have to have a type of health certificate. So if you're already traveling over state lines, you have to have that official health certificate anyway. Otherwise, we have our own that can be filled out. That's not the official state one that has to be sent in. The great thing is if you have a polo school already and you already have a set of horses, you are probably pretty set up to start an II team. Many horses that you see in a polo school type program are already used to having a lot of people on them. Some horses that usually don't work out for II are the horses that are kind of a one-rider horse. They want 1 or 2 people. They can't handle, 5 different people getting on them through a week. That's not, the type of horse that the kids should be getting on for sure. But any polo school right now, you're cycling riders on those horses all the time. They're used to different people. They're very, gracious ponies that take a lot of crap from people, and they can usually handle the kids really well. The other great thing about kids polo, especially the littlest ones, is they don't take a lot out of the horses. They're popping around for an hour. They maybe get into a hand canter sometimes. And it can be a really easy lesson to kind of fit into your already tight schedule with your horses. That's very easy on them.
In regard to travel, if you do not cross, if there are no state lines being crossed, coggins are still required?
Yes, we require coggins for every horse that plays. The intercollegiates are a little bit different from the interscholastics. They're actually a harder type of team to start from where we are concerned. We require a lot more for a new intercollegiate club. When they come to us and say we want to start a club, we basically hand them a list of things that they need to do before they will be accepted as a club. They need to have a coach now. As of next year, all of the intercollegiate clubs will be required to have a coach sign off on them that they are working with them. But all of the new clubs, thank you, all the new clubs must have a coach right now. They must have a place that they are actually taking polo lessons, because some people actually think that you can play polo but not take polo lessons as a new student. Try and figure that one out, but we kind of say no, you need to go think about that again. They have to have access to horses to be able to take lessons on. And that's not necessarily owning horses. That's going to someone, be able to take lessons there. They have to be recognized by their university or college. So that university has to sign off on them and say they are a club, they are a full sport, a varsity sport, or they are a club sport. This can actually be tough for some clubs, because every university is different, just like every polo club is different. Some universities require that they have 10 members in their club before they will recognize it. We actually have a club out of Ohio State that's trying to get going, and they just don't have enough members that are interested in the entire student body to join their club, so they can't be a club yet. They will not sign off yet. Some clubs they have to be in a trial period for a certain amount of years before the university will sign off on them. So the university knows that they're not just going to poof and go away after a year or two. So it's different with every university. The kids have to really figure that out. And that's one really big thing with intercollegiates, is that it's student involvement. The students have to be committed to it. The students have to run the club. Universities want that with their student-run clubs. That's the whole point, is that the students are running them, the students are doing everything. They must be full-time university students, so that's with most universities, it's 12 credits and above. They have to have an advisor that is employed by the university. So if we have any issues with them, we can call someone at the university that's going to be a direct link for us to go to. So we're not always dealing just with the students. And with the intercollegiates, because their parents aren't always right there, it's a very big student commitment. And if you ask anybody in this room that played intercollegiate polo, they're going to tell you what a large commitment it was. For the intercollegiate students, you've heard it from Emily, because Emily's got the greatest crew of kids. I went to Michigan State University, and our biggest rival is U of M. And I love those kids. They are amazing. Every time I go out to Detroit, there's just this little herd of U of M kids like running around with Emily everywhere. And they're so helpful. I drove in one day and one of them was out weed whacking the pastures. And I'm like, man, free help. This is great. Look at him go. Just out there tooling around, doing the jobs. Another kid's out painting a sign. Like, holy cow, almost free labor. They're almost free labor. And then they can also do some of the things that you need help with. Like Emily said, they've taken over her social media. That's actually a social media account I point a lot of colleges to. Telling them that if you want to make your social media better, look at U of M. They do a really great job. We actually also point them to Greenwich too, because Greenwich does such a great job. Summer and Christina were talking about how Greenwich gets you behind the scenes and really lets you know the players and know the horses. So that's what we tell a lot of our kids to, go do a, what do they call it? Is it Mayor Crush Monday that they do? I love it. Every Monday, hashtag Mayor Crush Monday, the kids feature one of their horses. It's just something you kind of look forward to, but they can bring that into your club as well and help you out with that. They also make really great lesson help. You need someone just as crowd control, ask them to come out, help out. If you need an extra person on a horse, usually these, if you start to employ them, especially over the summers, they can be that great help for you. They're happy to get on a horse and help. They're happy to have just a little bit of input. They're happy to ride sets. A lot of these kids they just want to be in polo and they just want to help out. So they can be a great asset in that way. Okay, and this whole some sort of convoluted way to play polo. We play by the arena rules with a couple of modifications. So we require that all II kids, when they are playing middle school through college, they have to have some sort of eye protection, whether that is a face mask or goggles. They have to have something on while they're playing. We do have artificial aid regulations. So there's only 2 types of spurs they can wear, and we also limit how long the shanks are and how big the rowels are. We also limit the length of the whip popper to 3 inches, so you're not seeing some big old dressage whip going out there. We do allow timeouts and substitutions. That's actually a new thing this past year that we started, and it's been a really great learning experience and coaching tool for the coaches, because if you've ever, in any situation, anytime you've played polo, if you get a teammate that's getting a little hot on the field, sometimes you just want that, you want 2 minutes to say, I just need you to calm down and just chill out for a second. That's actually what they can use this for. Or they can use it for strategy. If they have a player that's just not performing well, they can substitute them. It's getting polo into that more mainstream of other sports that can substitute on the fly a little bit. And we also use a split string format, which is the next slide. The other big thing with II polo is we require that they work games and tournaments. They're required to tack horses, untack horses, wash, walk in between chukkers. They have to help set up the arena and line it. They help while they're walking. We tell them to look, check tack, make sure nothing's broken, make sure the wraps aren't falling down. Did you see any cuts on that horse? Is that horse, having issues breathing? Let us know. So we're trying to make these kids more aware of the animals that they're around and what really goes behind the scenes in a tournament. It's not just hopping on your horse and going out to play. There's a lot of stuff that goes on before and after. All right, the split string format. A lot of people think this is a really hard concept, and it is when you try to sit down and explain it using letters and numbers. Amy Frazier made this, and she is so excited that it's being used. So if anyone talks to her, tell her it was just, it was amazing. I think she actually called it the bee's knees. So if you'd like to use that phrase, be my guest. The split string format was actually developed by Cornell's Doc Roberts after World War II. And before that point, every team would bring their own horses to games or tournaments, and basically the team that had the best horses would win, because you would be playing against other people. They weren't always matched up. Some of the teams had donated horses, other teams were buying their own strings. So with this format, it actually helped to even the playing field, as it were. So now each team has to play every horse that's in the game. And it allowed teams to be able to travel without horses and not worry about getting, the 6 worst horses in the barn playing against the 6 best horses in the barn. So it's relatively simple. You have a red team and a blue team. And in the first chukker, the red team is going to play the 3 little brown horses. And the blue team is going to play, I'm calling them palominos. I think it might be a stretch. The blue team's going to play the palominos. So they are stuck with those horses for the first chukker. After the first chukker, they get off those horses and get on a different set. These horses go out and walk for the second chukker and through halftime. And then in the third chukker, they switch. So the red team now has the palominos, and the blue team now has the brown horses. So every team, there are 12 horses that play throughout the game. Both teams have to play all of the horses. It really does level the playing field, and it also creates better riders because kids aren't playing the same horses all the time. They have to learn, and they only get a few minutes to figure out a horse that they've maybe never ridden before. They have to learn if it has good brakes, if it has any speed. Is it just not going to go to the corners? Is it going to dive out on me? It really makes you a more confident rider, and it gives you better horsemanship skills, which is really great. All right, middle school. How many of you have been to a middle school tournament? Okay, everybody else, you're missing out because it is seriously it's amazing. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever been to. I actually went to my first one this year, and it was at Justin's parents' farm. His sister she started out with 8 kids, Justin, this summer. Julie, middle school?
8, but only 5 of them.
Here we go. So it's grades 5 through 8. We made the middle school program because we actually had kids in the interscholastics playing from grade 5 to 12th grade. So if you think about a 5th grader and a 12th grader, there's a big size difference there. And there's a big maturity difference there too. But if you put those kids on the same field and make them play against each other, it may not be the best situation for either person. So we actually consulted our safety committee and said, where is that line that we should probably be drawing? And they said, 8th grade was a good shot, and that, 5th grade, where we were with 5th grade, was pretty good. So there is actually some overlap there. So 7th and 8th graders can play up into the interscholastics. So they can play in the fall with the middle school, and then in the spring also play with their tournament team for interscholastics. They have to be USPA members. They have to be ready for that tournament polo. They have to know the rules. You can't just throw a brand new kid in there and say, go at it, go play. You don't have to have a full team for middle school. It's individual applications. We put the teams together once the tournaments fill, once we have a good number. We had 11 different tournaments this year, which was the most we've had so far. It's only its 3rd year, so we're still growing and kind of handpicking where we're doing tournaments. We actually we kind of sent surveys out to all of our coaches and said, do you have kids between these grades, and looked at where the clusters of people were, and that's where we kind of offered tournaments and set tournaments for the first couple years. And now it's really been word of mouth. Last year we had a couple new people ask, I'd really like to try this. Can we host one of these too? So it's starting to grow slowly but surely, and eventually we're going to kind of open it up like we do with the interscholastic tournaments, offering them, for people to host all over the country. What's different and great about middle school is we don't use the split string program, so the kids can play their own horses. We do ask that they only play 2 chukkers, so we're not saying, here's 1 pony, go play 4 chukkers, because that's not what we want to teach them either. Is that, the horses need a break. They can take 2 horses and go play 4 chukkers in a tournament, or they can lease an appropriate horse, which is great too. A lot of the places we've gone so far have had horses available for these kids to play, and it's turned out really well. With the Darlington tournament, it was great talking to Julie when I was there, because she used the middle school tournament as it was the carrot. oh, let's work through the summer. Everyone's going to start in the spring. We're going to work through the summer, and this is our goal, is to make it to the middle school tournament. And the kids played great. I mean, they came out, they played some polo, they had a great time, and it was very low-key. Everyone was having a good time. There was no stress. I actually told someone I think I spent more time wrapping wraps and helping kids tack horses than I did my actual tournament managing duties, because they just, Miss Emily, can you come help me? My horse won't stand still and it's putting its head up. And I'm like, of course I'll help you, small child. You're adorable. But it's just, yes, he did, as you can see him right there. Was that your Steelers striped shirt?
Yeah, black and gold umpire.
Ugliest shirt on earth. But the middle school kids are great too. It's a lot like the interscholastic kids. They're bringing their friends, they're bringing their cousins, they're bringing their brothers and sisters, telling everyone how amazing it is, how much fun they're having. Their parents are coming by, they're bringing food. I can't even tell you how much food we had at the Powers place. It was like just food everywhere all the time. People bringing in more. I'm like, good Lord, how do you people, keep up with this? So it's just another option for you to look at and say, okay, if I can target the smaller kids, maybe I can get a couple playing, even if you only have a couple of younger ones, and they could fit into they could play with your interscholastic kids, and then they can go play in their middle school tournaments at the closest tournament near you. And all of our tournaments are listed on the website. So if you ever want to find them, they're under the interscholastic, intercollegiate part of the website. And it's more than just tournaments. These are some of our more recent additions to the II program. The regular season champions we already talked about, and the recognition letters. And actually every college team this year, their school president or whoever that individual was, I know it's different from college to college, whether it's a president or a chancellor or something like that. They got a letter from us that said, here are your team's achievements for this year, really trying to tell them that, you have this club, it's really great, look at what these kids are doing. And that's actually an idea that Chris gave us this year, and we've gotten really rave reviews about it. One of the Alfred State team, was taking pictures with their club or with their school president. Another team actually got tweeted by their president. They're like, oh my God, we got tagged in a tweet from our university president. They were really excited about that. We also have the interscholastic varsity letter. Oh, where are we going? The interscholastic varsity letter, kids in the high school program, the interscholastic program can qualify to basically letter like you would in any other sport in high school. So they have a certain set of requirements, hours that they have to meet with riding, playing, game time, stick and balling. They have to play in so many games. There's a certain number of regular season games they have to play in, and they have to play in at least one tournament game. Their coaches have to sign off on it. They have to go through a process so we know they actually did all these requirements. And then they get a varsity letter. They get an actual letter from our chairman, David Wedding. And then we offer for them to send the recognition to their school as well. So we've had kids, this is Parker Pierce. He is a Maryland kid that plays out at Liv and Nate's club. But his school put it up on their website. Parker Pierce earns a varsity letter this year. We've had other people that have had their, they've been given recognition at their sports banquets like any other sport. Maybe their whole team isn't from their school, but they're still getting the recognition that, the basketball player's getting or the baseball player's getting. And that's been really great for these kids. Some of them are also able to put it on their transcripts, so that's huge for a lot of them too. So colleges can see that commitment from them as well. We now have intercollegiate scholarships, which is it's huge. This is our second year giving out scholarships. We give out 6 $4,000 scholarships every year. This year we were actually able to give out a 7th, which was kind of I mean, it wasn't a surprise. We should have known about it ahead of time. But one of our recipients last year graduated. We had extra funds. We asked the committee. They're like, sure. So we gave out a 7th one. It was great. We're like, we have this money. We can give it to kids. Why not? So they have to meet a GPA minimum. They have to be going or already playing at a school that has intercollegiate polo. And they have to meet a grade point average when they're in school. But if they do those things, if they keep their GPA up, if they keep playing, it's auto-renewable. So it's all the way through their college years. They're getting every year for at least 4 years. We don't go for the victory lap, sorry. I was one of those, it was great. But it auto-renews every year. So you keep up your GPA, you keep playing, you get another, $4,000 the next year. It's a pretty great program. We also do mentoring, which we call College Polo 101, and then we do College Polo 101 on the road. And that's something that Amy, Posey, Allie, and I do. We do one big event in Aiken in the fall and invite about a dozen kids. Every kid's from a different club, and we do an intensive weekend in Aiken going over equine welfare initiatives. We go to a feed mill just to show them different types of feed. A lot of these kids, if you don't have any ag majors in your intercollegiate club, a lot of them don't know the difference in feeds, and it's a huge resource for them. We go over all the paperwork they have to do that year, which they sit and they get glassy-eyed, but if you don't sit down and say, this is what you need to do, sometimes they forget or they miss something. We do skills and drills with Liz. We do body condition scoring with Liz, which is another thing. We try to do as much education on equine welfare as we can. It's another slide coming up, but that's one really big thing that we put them through is the body condition score education. When we go out to a club, we get on site, we get to see their horses. We try to meet with their coach, their advisor, if they have an executive board, we try to meet with them too, if we can get them all together. Meeting with club members. Justin and I did one last year. We went to Oklahoma State, where Devin is, and we did a clinic along with it, which was great. The really nice thing about the College Polo 101 series is you get a really great connection with these kids. We were here last year when Oklahoma State's barn went down. And I was getting emails, I think, from Devin, and I'm like running to Justin going, oh my God, look what happened. And Devin had that good enough relationship with us that she was calling us and saying, what can we do? What do we do from here? David was actually also here too, so we were having little powwows here and there, like, okay, what are we gonna do now? How do we help them? But it's really opened up communication between the colleges and the staff, which has been really great, because these kids put a face to the name, and they're not afraid to call and ask for help or, call and talk something through if they really need it. It's been a really great program. We have a lot of funding options for teams as well. For the intercollegiate teams, we have funding available. We call it startup and enhancement funding. So they can apply for funds to get TAC, to get equipment, things like that. We have a lot of teams that get donated a TAC and it starts to wear out a little bit, so we try to get them to apply for that funding and get new stuff. And then for fundraisers, if a team, and fundraisers are actually intercollegiate and interscholastic. So if your team is having a fundraiser, we want a well-planned out idea of what you're doing, how much money you're planning on making, and what you need money to help offset your costs, but we'll reimburse them up to $1,000 for anything from, rentals. They need to rent a tent, they need to rent tables and chairs, to, if they're gonna do some apparel, we'll help them with that. Almost anything you can think of, we will help them or try and walk them through. When we get those requests, because they have to fill out a form for it, if it's not up to snuff, if they're not giving us enough information, or if we think we can help them make it better, we also do that too. We don't just say, no, this isn't good enough, try again. We usually say, you need to do this, you need to try this. How can you make this fundraiser bigger and better? How can you make more money off of this? So we try to make it an educational opportunity for those kids as well. Our International Challenge Cup is a game we play. We trade teams with SUPA in Britain, which is our British counterpart. So it's the colleges and high schools in England that play over there. So every other year, they come here or we go there and we play a test match. We're 2-2 right now with that record. It's been going on for 4 years. And this year we are playing here in Arizona in January. So we're hoping to go up on that series. And that's a great one. When they come here, it's a great experience for those kids because our rules are different. So they have to come here, learn the rules, and figure out the game. Same thing when we go over there. It's just a great opportunity for both sets of students to be able to travel a little bit. Another great thing we're pushing for our intercollegiate clubs are alumni events, and it can really help your clubs out too. We're having a lot of push right now to figure out where II alums are going after they graduate college, because there's usually this gap where they go away, they disappear because you're trying to get a job, you're trying to make some money, maybe you want to buy a house, have kids, in whatever order you want to do that, but there's not always that expendable income for these people to play polo. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can keep pulling those people back, even if it's just a little bit. I know we keep saying Emmeline's name, but Emmeline's really good at this. Whenever I'm over in Detroit, she's like, Emily, you want to go stick and ball? You want to play checker? And I'm like, God, you just set the hook and you pull me in every time. I just can't stop. But it's been a really great way to get some of these people involved again. We're working on an article right now for our II magazine where we're featuring a couple of these events. Hillary's UMass team just did an alumni event and did one in the spring as well. Virginia Tech does a really great alumni event that actually Jenny played in. The great thing about Virginia Tech is that they pulled in alumni that didn't even play polo at Virginia Tech. They're just Virginia Tech alumni that play polo. And they've gotten some great funding from them too. So it's been really great to kind of connect some of these clubs to their alumni, to local alumni, and then help pull them into your clubs a little bit more so everyone can kind of get those people back into polo in whatever capacity that might be. All right, our equine welfare initiative. So I talked about the horse usage guidelines. With our tournaments, for our national and regional tournaments, we actually won't let horses play on certain days. So in national tournaments, they aren't allowed to play back-to-back days. So we will have complete off days because we can't shuffle them around enough to play every other day. With regionals, they aren't allowed to play more than 2 days in a row. We also have shipping guidelines that tell our teams, okay, if you're shipping 200 miles, you need to be at your destination at least 2 hours before your game. So your horses have time to get off the trailer and not just, walk them off and into the arena and go play. So trying to teach these teams what's acceptable. How do we treat our horses as well, as we can? We also, if teams want to ship over 600 miles, which we don't recommend that they do, if they want to do that, we make them send us a detailed outline of when they're leaving, when they're stopping, where they're staying overnight, because they need to stay overnight at some point, where the horses are getting extra water, when they're expected to get into their destination, and the same thing on the way back. And that has to get approved by our National Host Tournament Committee. So we don't take this lightly. It's something that we definitely look into, and we tell people if they don't have a good plan, no, you're not allowed to do this. We will help you find horses here, or you need to figure out a better plan for that. We do a lot of training with our teams, with all of our teams actually, on the body condition scoring. Every team has to watch the webinar that's on Polo Skills right now that Liz Holson did every year. We have an II rules test that every team has to take every year. There are questions on there about the BCS and just educating them on what a good weight on a horse looks like, feels like. What do they need to do if they're above or below those recommendations. At all of our tournaments, we do a pre-tournament horse inspection. So every II tournament in the spring, there's a vet there before the game, and every horse has to be jogged and body condition scored. And if it doesn't meet the jog and it doesn't meet in the body condition score, it's out. We have re-jogged horses before, so for example, when you're in the Northeast in the winter and you pull a horse in, sometimes they're a little cold because it's frigid. So if you need to go around and walk horses out for a couple minutes, let them warm up, we're not so strict that we don't understand that that happens. But if you're pulling a horse in and it's definitely lame, you want to try it again? Okay, definitely lame still? All right, no, that's not passing. That's not happening. So we're very serious about teaching these kids what a good body condition score is, and how to keep their horses fit and sound. We have vets on site at all of our regional and national tournaments, so if we have any issues, we have someone there at every game that we can pull in to consult on horses. And that's been a great addition to take that, it lifts a weight off of our coaches, off of our horse providers, off of our managers and umpires, to have that professional there that says, nope, this horse is done, we're taking it out. And it's like, oh, thank you. I didn't have to go, fight with someone about, whether that horse should continue to play or not. This is the photo right there is our equine welfare book that we put together specifically for our II teams. Everyone got one, I think, last year. But it just outlines, it outlines how to be a good horse owner. It goes through different ways to bring your horses back from if they've been off for a couple months. We went through and got opinions from everyone around the country. It took a good 2 years to put that together. It's a great publication. Allie Davidge worked her butt off on that one, and it's really turned out well. And it's been a great resource for a lot of our programs. And we also push them to polo skills as well, because it's a huge resource for them. It's easy to access, whether it's a question they have about equine welfare. If they want to push their members to wrap a little bit better, hey, here's a video on wrapping. If you want to be a little bit better on your near side back shots, go check out this video. So that's not just equine welfare, it's a little bit of everything. And then we have a huge dedication to our players' safety, and it's not just safety in the game, but outside the game as well. We have our own concussion protocol, which is new this year, designating exactly how we expect a person that has been diagnosed with a concussion to handle that concussion. So if we have EMTs on site at every II event. If an EMT diagnoses a player with a concussion, they are done with the tournament. And we actually had to put together a little piece of paper that says that, because people would go say, oh, hey, my dad's a doctor and he said I'm fine to play. No, it actually says in our concussion protocol that you need to go find someone that is not related to you to clear you. Because you could have anybody say they're a doctor. Would you like to pull out your license? Oh, you don't have one? Oh, okay, gotcha. So our concussion protocol is new this year. We have an EMT on site at every II event. Obviously, we hate to use them, but when they're there, it's wonderful to have that professional to help out if we ever have a kid injured. I'm not going to go crazy because I know you guys all know how to read, but these are the coaching requirements that we are requiring this year. We're also recommending that our coaches get CPI certified because it's a great resource to have and a great program to go through. As a lot of you guys saw yesterday, even just going through the motions and seeing how different people teach is a great resource for anybody, especially our coaches. And then with our umpires, our top level volunteers, and our staff and managers, we all go through these different requirements. So we're all members, we all get a criminal background check. The CDC Heads Up Concussion Training is a half an hour online free program that you just kind of click through videos. And it just gives you, the symptoms and signs of a concussion and what you should do and how you should follow through. Just basic information. If you're having a practice and one of your kids, falls off and bumps his head, what do you do? Just having that basic information to help you out. And the U.S. Olympic Committee's Safe Sport Training is a resource on physical, emotional, and sexual abuse in students and youth sports players. So it gives coaches it just gives them a resource on how to recognize, if a student might be having issues, whether it's at home or with another coach, or how to prevent having any issues with yourself as a coach. That's a really great resource as well. All right, we're almost there, I promise. So why II? Our goal as an II program is to return a well-rounded horseman back to your club, whether that's in middle school now, which is not up there, high school, college, or after graduation. We don't want them to just be a well-balanced horseman. We want them to be a good person too. We want our II kids to know that there's no room for unsportsmanlike conduct in any club in the US, not just II, because we have a zero tolerance policy, but that you shouldn't see it anywhere. We do want to return a good horseman to you. We want them to be good riders. We want them to be able to take care of their ponies and all that, good stuff that goes along with that. And II is great because you really do have the opportunity to make lifelong friends and connections. This is a picture of, it was a picture of last year's national tournament. We had, we asked all of the II alums to come into the arena after it was all over. And that was a picture of all the II alums that were at that national tournament on the last day. So there were a good, probably 30 people. You were there, weren't you? Oh. Allie and I aren't in the picture, so we'll say it's 30 people. We were off doing tournament things. But we're gonna have a couple people stand up. I'm an II alum. I learned how to play polo in college. I played at Michigan State. After I left Michigan State, I took a job at Garrison Forest School under Cindy Halley, and I stayed there for 7 years and coached with her. And then I took this job after that. I had opportunities in college to go work in Detroit. I worked for Merle Jenkins for a couple years. I went to Chicago for a summer and had a great time out there, and then went to Grand Rapids the year after my victory lap in college, and worked for Les Johnson, who I had met through playing intercollegiate polo. So this is really all I've done. Posey and I were sitting in the corner yesterday when Melania mentioned, animal science major, what are you gonna do with your life? And we're like, preach, sister. What am I gonna do with my life? My mom always told me that polo wasn't gonna pay the bills, and every day I'm like, still working. So that's my story. This resource that you were given is brand new this year. It came hot off the presses this fall. This has every single college team that we had last year in it, stats about them, pictures from their clubs. This got sent out to every senior and junior interscholastic player that we have right now, and we're working on a list to get it to more kids that don't necessarily play on the interscholastic teams. So this is a really great resource if you want to take a look at it. And that's all I have, so thank you. Gracias.